In these days, businesses change, and not only businesses, but also the markets. Have you ever thought how the art market might adapt to what we face right now and how to run a business in the art market? No? Yeah, it might be quite complicated. So I'm very proud that we have an expert on that topic here today. She's a serial entrepreneur in the art market. She came from the UK to the US in 2000. She ran a gallery in Soho, basically the heartbeat of the creative industry of the whole UK, in London from November 2006. Then the art world, as we all know, entered a new era from which started with the credit crunch in 2008. And she founded the Association of Women Art Dealers, AWAD, an international multi-chapter non-profit network connecting women and women identifying art dealers on a global basis. But that's not all. This was followed by creation of Be Smart About Art, an online accessible professional development platform that helps creative professionals thrive in a changing world. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But of course, that's not all she has done. In 2018, she embarked upon Art AML, which unites technology and art market know-how to help dealers keep dealing and buyers keep buying in the face of anti-money laundering legislation that hit the art market in 2020. Based in Lewes, East Sussex, Susan works locally in London, around the UK, the USA, continental Europe, and online. Hello and welcome, Susan J. Mumford.
Hello, Niels.
Thank you very much for taking the time, and I'm getting straight into the topic. When we see the recent times, of course, I'm not an art expert, but running a business in the art world, I would think it's about personal encounters. It's about running galleries. Buying and selling is a very personal business. So with the situation we have in place right now, it is quite challenging to say the least, I would assume. What do you think about how to run an art business, how to run business in the art world when you can't meet personally?
So I have got several points to that question. The first is speaking to who has done well, and the second is to respond to your point about that experience. So Mary Alice Stack, who is the chief executive of an organization called Creative United, she also was behind the foundation of a program called Own Art a number of years ago, kind of early 2000s. And some of your listeners will have heard of Own Art. It enables you to buy art in installment payments.
Okay.
The reason I'm bringing up Mary Alice is that she, through her program of Own Art, in which they have galleries throughout the UK who take part in Own Art, they've been able to see some really solid figures. That was in about the last 10 months. So throughout the kind of first 10 months of the pandemic, in the West at least. And what she has seen is that basically the galleries that were already online are the ones that have done the best, the fastest in the COVID era. This is no surprise to anyone. So they were basically ready to go, and they were able to adapt. You may not even say pivot. You might go, well, that's actually something that they were already able to do. So they just started to focus more on the online aspect of their business. That might have not only been their own online gallery, but also it could have been one of the transactional online marketplaces. And what a lot of art dealers are saying is that, in fact, that they still are selling a lot of work purely by those existing relationships they have, those long-lasting relationships, and then sending images, PDFs, that kind of thing. And that's who we're hearing is buying. It's your long-standing, loyal collectors. And one thing that concerns me is looking at people who say have much younger art businesses, because they won't have that following. The second point, just very quickly as well, in terms of the experience, is that the thing that has been certainly lacking has been the social side of art. So whenever you see an online art fair taking place, what I encourage people to do is to jump online together with some friends, have a drink, whether that's a cup of tea, coffee, wine, you name it. We're in the art world, maybe champagne, and visit the online exhibition together, so that you can still talk about that piece, and you can still have that conversation around the work of art. That's definitely that's the piece that I think people are just they're really craving to have. So how can you create the social with this current world? It's really important to work out a solution.
So when you said that the online gallery, the galleries that were online already were doing the best, I would now assume, of course, it's just an assumption, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you run a museum, a gallery, whatever you run, don't you have many people on board who say, well, we want people to come on site, we want people to meet here, so we will not put our ideas online because that might keep people away from coming here? Isn't that a conclusion that other people had as well?
It's been a mixed bag, actually. And what this has made me think of is the 2008-2009 credit crunch and recession, when you basically, many businesses needed to adapt, they needed to pivot. I had a gallery at the time that actually utterly pivoted. If I hadn't done that, I would not have kept my business. And people have made their own decisions. And my take in terms of what I've seen is that it really depended on people's outlooks on the pandemic and what was happening when it first started. So some people went, oh, you know what? I'm just going to close up shop for a few months. And in the summer of 2020, I'll open back up and everything will be normal. And then it started to dawn on people when we were hitting September 2020. They were going, okay, this thing might be longer lasting than we thought it would be. So actually, fast forward to today, we're looking ahead at the whole of 21 at the moment. And the vast majority of art businesses now have a blended model. So that what they were talking about at the end of 2020 was for the exhibitions in which there might be an in-person or in real life, we might say, element to them in 21, that they're not keeping up their hopes, that they're going, if we need a plan B, it will also be accessible online. So where I see the art business model going into the future is that you will certainly have the in real life element, but you will also have an online accessible element in many instances. And for a lot of collectors, they're really excited about it. I listened to one panel discussion with Art Basel in which an art collector based in Hong Kong was talking about how he's never able to attend Art Basel Miami Beach in December because of business needs that he always has at that time of year. And now with the online model being available, he can actually still see the works of art. He can see new bodies of work that have been released and still engage in that event online. And the transparency changes we're seeing in the industry are phenomenal in terms of people are realizing artworks they didn't think were accessible to them actually are in their price bracket. So it's a lot of changes are being sped up that would have otherwise taken years to achieve.
Great to see that change is going to happen so proactively, which is very good. Now, of course, there was one aspect which was particularly interesting, as we have many people listening here who are running businesses. And of course, some people were very surprised when they suddenly heard the word money laundering in context with art. And suddenly you have nearly financial industry level regulation on the art world. Could you just give us a short, brief update? So what happened there? Why did this happen? And what does that mean for buyers in the art market today?
Yes. So, and at the time of speaking, we have the anti-money laundering legislation that's hit the European Union. It was voted on in May of 2018. European Union member states were required to oblige by early 2020, January 2020. Otherwise, they risked a big fine. And now today, the US has just passed legislation. So for your US-based viewers as well, it looks like the first thing that will be hit is antiquities, and next it will be the art market after about a year. And so what basically happened is, as I think a lot of people are aware, that criminals were targeting various industries like banking or law, property, in terms of how can you move around, how can you clean dirty money that has been attained through illicit activities. As those other industries became increasingly regulated, those individuals, the criminals, were looking for other ways of moving around money. And guess what? Art fluctuates in price. So if artwork goes up and down erratically, well, it seems normal to be the art market. Secondly, it's easy to move. So if you want to buy a work of art, get it across the border as, I don't know, something that's actually a piece of junk and then actually sell it for a ton, you can. And thirdly, what's just come out in the National Risk Assessment 2020 in the UK is that the opaque nature of the art market and not knowing the identity of buyers is actually what puts the UK art market, according to United Kingdom governmental officials, as being high risk of being the target of money laundering. So what we see with the art market is that you've got these businesses that essentially criminals are targeting, And the good news is that when you use technology like RTML, something that seems really daunting can actually walk you through the process. You can take a risk-based approach, and it means that somebody who does not have training in how to do compliance can actually still do this. And it brings together technology and the human mind to make risk-based decisions. And it's reality of industry today. When I found out about the legislation in 2018, I thought, right, I've got two choices. One is to campaign against it, or two is to accept that this is the reality of business today and to try to support the industry. So I took the latter decision.
So when we talk about technology and the art world, maybe it's just me, but art for me is very creative. Technology, of course, you can find creative ways in technology, but normally I would say it is quite the opposite of the art world. Art world, creative, technology, not so much. What was the moment where you thought, let's bring these two together?
Really, it's with those two things. I suppose I had been using technology in my other businesses for a number of years. I've been delivering myself online training since 2013,
Okay.
and I had launched the global chapter of the Association of Women Art Dealers in 2016. And I think for a number of years, people were going, what are these strange things that Susan is doing? Why is she inviting people to meet online? Fast forward to 2020, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
And so actually, when it comes to the topic of, say, anti-money laundering, using technology is something that will enable people to do this efficiently, securely, holding personal identity on your own system. If you're not an IT expert, it's a pretty scary prospect. And so by using technology, what you can actually do is essentially just be a lot more assured about the process and about how it's handled. And we're living through an era at the moment in which technology is suddenly being seen much more in the art market, but this particular industry has definitely been slower to adopt technology than others. That said, a couple of years ago, I was aware of a gallery in New York that did 12 monthly shows throughout the year of women virtual reality artists. So it's here. It's just taking time. And like I said before, I think it's people are now beginning to realize actually you can use technology to provide access to art, and it's not going to go away. People are actually enjoying it increasingly.
Absolutely. Excellent. To round this interview up, when now people are listening to this and think, wow, that is a really great approach from a rather creative and sometimes traditional business to include technology to make things go better, the whole online world, your approach is very modern. And as you said, for quite a while, people thought, what is Susan doing there? So it takes a while until people really accept the change. When people are now listening to this and thinking about, maybe I should do my own business, but I'm not really sure, because we all know these moments when people look at you and say, what are you doing there? They can be quite challenging, to say the least. What are Susan Mumford's top 3 tips for people who think about, should I do it, yes or no, and where do I start right now? What are your top 3 tips?
What technology across the board, do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I do it? Absolutely, yes, 100%. I think in terms of tips, my first one is to realize that, let's say this medium in which we're speaking now, it doesn't replace face-to-face. What it does is it complements that. So the mindset of understanding that is incredibly important, that you think of it as a tool, you think of it as supporting the other activities. The second piece is to adopt a learning mindset. And with that, whenever you log into a platform and you see, oh my gosh, they've updated the platform again, instead of going, instead go, okay, this is a company to which I subscribe, and they're continuing to improve their platform with myself in mind. What have they changed? So it's that learning mindset that I really encourage people to have. And then the third tip as well is to just keep on top that the changes that are taking place. I've had a fascinating experience setting up a new business in the last couple of years, in the sense of I realized in needing to set up new accounts for differing reasons for a business, that actually a lot of the systems that I had put in place, despite being someone who was very much so into technology and obviously appreciating it in real life as well, that actually I was repeating a lot of activities that I could instead integrate, and I could bring systems together. So my last 2 points really go hand in hand. So I suppose if I think about the third point is to actively speak with other people about how they're using technology, and to really make a point of changing how you work. When I went through a process of setting up new systems for a startup, at that stage I went, you know what? I think any business that's more than 5 years old probably needs to overhaul what they're doing with their technology if they've not changed things in that time, because I'm sure that they will be using platforms that double up, that they could actually bring together and work more efficiently and more effectively. A simple example being, say, a really effective client relationship management platform that can just revolutionize how you onboard people, how you bring together your communication efforts.
Excellent. These are great tips, of course. And of course, without that, I'm going to put your contact details in the show notes of this podcast so people can get in touch with you directly. Because I think quite a number of people are now where you were a couple of years ago. They still hesitate. And I think that you can be of great help for them to make the right decisions and the right steps right now. So at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing for me left to say. Susan, thank you very much for your time.
And thank you, Niels.